All right, let's talk about duplicating layers, and this should be kind of fun. So, I'm showing you, a still from it before I hide those layers and show you how to do it. But you can see that I duplicated the runner, and gave him back layers and kind of slightly rose the head above in the back of the same runner to sort of show the depth or the perspective. And I put in the text, etc. I did something slightly different than what the book says. So I'm going to show you what I did and show you what the book said here. And it's just one simple selection. So the runner, as you can see, this was the original one. And I duplicated it and put it back here and kind of slightly rose it up higher. I could probably make it a little bit higher because it looks still a little like it should be up a little bit more. And then I duplicated this layer and then moved it over here. But if you're looking, you can see that this is actually the opposite or the flip of this one. And so with that in mind, and any of you who've used Photoshop or Premiere or something before, you know that I can actually flip my layers so that if it was going in one direction, I can flip it on the other axis. Okay, so that's not the biggest deal of of it, um, but I did want you to kind of know it was there as an option. I probably will show you it unflipped first, and then I'll just flip it for fun later on. Okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna actually unlock all the layers because I'm gonna talk about locking as well. I'm gonna hide the layers that I did. I called them old so I don't get confused. And I'm going to bring my background above it because I'm not going to work on these. So you shouldn't have these two layers that I'm rolling across right now that are hidden because I did those as my test. So I'm going to just lock them and hide them so that they're out of our way. But you should have these three, right? You should have the front, which is the grass. You should have the middle layer, which is the running video, the running man video, and then you should have the dog image in the back, right? You should have those three. And so now what we're going to do is a few things. I'm going to trim this. I'm going to pull this back out again so I can show you. So this is a bigger file, and it's something I said earlier on that I assumed that we were going to trim this out because it's big and long. So I'm going to just click here and type in 500, right? So that means it's going to be 5 seconds long. And when I do that, as we know, my playhead comes right here to 5, which is perfect. And then I'm going to just notice how my cursor or my mouse has changed the symbol so that I can just bring it all the way in. And so I tend to go into composition settings for this next part, but it's a nice shortcut that I will show you at this point. Is when you can right click and just say trim comp to work area, which is nice because I just trimmed the work area to 5 seconds. So I could go into composition settings and say 5 seconds and type it in to change the settings, or I could just right click and click on this button, trim comp to work area, boom. So when I do that, now my comp size, my finished piece is at 5, which is nice. Okay, so now I have him running, and he's been running the whole time, right? Nothing's changed with that. And I'm just arbitrarily putting my playhead someplace just because I want to, right? But what I really have to do is duplicate him running, right? So I know that's the right one because I can turn it on and off to let me know. Something that I will remind you all of is I'm going to go ahead and lock the layers that I'm not going to work on because I'm going to be doing duplicates and moving things and I don't want to move the wrong layer. So with the running layer selected, I'm going to duplicate it, right? You can do a shortcut or you can just click on it and go into edit and go to duplicate. And the shortcut is right here. Okay. So with that selected and duplicated, I'm gonna lock the original so I don't accidentally move it. And now I'm just gonna click and move. If yours didn't click and move, it may be because you're not on the right symbol or the right selection, which is the selection tool. So with the selection tool selected, I moved him, but now because I want it to look like there's two of him running behind, I'm going to go ahead and scale it. And so to do that, I'm going to go to transform. You could have hit S to go to transform scale. It doesn't have to be dramatic like that. Don't do that. But just, sort of a slight scaling. I'm at like 62. Um, I think I moved it to 64. And I'm moving it. And as I said, I'm going to try to move it a little bit above him. And of course, to the side. So you can see that's sort of a little tiny bit above the original. And I can go ahead and move it up a little bit higher. Okay. So once I have that, I have my first duplicate of the running layer. With that, I'm actually going to duplicate this layer. So because I already have the size I want, and so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate. And again, you're welcome to use a shortcut. I tend to use the long cut to show it to you, and then I can show you what the duplicate symbol is. So I duplicated it and then I moved it over. Now, and I will tell you in the moving it over because I'm moving it all up and down. I recommend that you hold on to the shift key while you are moving it. So my hand is still on the shift key. What that does is prevent it from going up and down, okay? Which is nice. So I'm going to go ahead and once I do that, that's really the dupe. And then after that, I'm going to make this into a pre-comp, which you guys know how to do. I'm just going to quickly show you this one part before I do it, the pre-comp. And that is if so, for example, with the running, he's running in the same way in each one. And I think ultimately that's what I'm going to keep. But I did want to show you that you can flip that if you go to layer and you go to transform and you just go flip horizontal. See how you can go on the other side? So if it was just two of them, I would flip it. But because it's three and one is running on this way and the same is on this side, I'm not going to flip it. But if it was just two of them at the same time, I would most certainly flip it. So I'm going to undo that and keep them running on that side. But what I'm going to do now is, now that I have two back ones, I have two duplicates of the original and I have them smaller and in the background, I'm going to select them both inside of my timeline, right? And now that they're selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go down to pre-compose. So you guys have seen us do this before, and I'll call it back runners. Okay? But you want something there that tells you what it is, right? So I have it and I'm going to hit OK. And so now I have a composition inside of another composition of the back two runners, right? Which makes it a little bit easier for me. And then I have the foreground of the main runner. So again, what you'll notice I do is I tend to lock layers that I'm not using because I don't want them to get messed up. What I'm going to put in now is some text. So I think it's run and eat. Actually, I have it right here. Before I try to do it, let me just show it to myself. Here it is. Dash into the diner. Dash into the diner is what I'm going to type in. So dash into the diner. Exclamation point. Okay. So now that I have that, I'm going to go back to my selection tool and I'm going to move this over. I'm going to center it in a minute, but I noticed one particular thing. See how my dash, now for some of you, your text might be really small and we'll talk about scaling it, right? But one of the things that I did was I put the dash into the diner here, but it's actually supposed to be behind the first runner, right? But in front of the last two runners. So hopefully when I say that, you guys can figure it out where you go, oh, okay, well, if it's supposed to be in back of the first runner, then that dash into diner layer needs to be behind the layer of the of him his initial run, right? So it needs to be behind that, but it needs to be in front of the two other runners. So that's my layer, and that's that layer hierarchy that we use in Photoshop, and we're using it again. Okay, and we use it in several softwares. So I have Dash into Diner. I did put mine up on 150 to get it scaled that size, but you could have just gone into the actual layer and gone to scale and scaled it there yourself. Okay? You could scale it either way, but I just did it that way. And from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a couple of things because we want to align this so that we have it centered. And I'm going to just go up, and here is my effects, which I'm going to use shortly. But I'm just going to pull out a line, and with a line, I'm going to click on the text dash into the diner, and see how it says it's aligning it to the composition, and I'm just going to align it that way. Okay, and that's fine for me. I can also align it this way, but I don't think I want it running out of his behind, so I'm going to just move it up some. To me, that's not appealing, but I will center it. So with that, I'm going to go then to um, my animated presets. So I'm going to go under text. So I'm under animated presets, and now I'm going to go into text, and I'm going to go animate in. So hopefully that sounds familiar to all of you. Keep in mind that I have the text layer selected, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and do stretch each word. You can choose another one, but you want something that's actually going to, work well. Um, so I'm going to click on stretching each word, and then I'm just going to put it right on top. Now, when I do that, I get an animated in. So I have to go see how now I'm going to close the transform under the text, but I can see that I have keyframes there, right? Because I did an animate in. So there's that range selector that we've talked about this semester. And here we go. It's right here. Now, if I don't want it to start there, I can just move those keyframes. You guys know how to move keyframes very well at this point, and you can just move them wherever you want. So I just selected the two and held on to the shift key, but I could have just selected offset because there's only two keys here, and I could do it that way too. So let's say as he begins to run, I don't want dash into the diner until we get to frame, let's say 12, and now that animation starts to kick in. Okay? Now that timing you can decide for yourself. I just did it at 12 frames. Okay? So again, what we did in this section was we duplicated our runner and we scaled him back and put him in the background. Then we made a composition out of the two runners. Then we put a text dash into diner in the between the back runners and then the forefront runner, right? And then we put in an animation text effect onto the text. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed showing you guys new stuff. I'm going to just delete these two just so that you're clear of the layers that I have that I need in here. Okay. And we also edited this we trimmed it so it would be a total of 5 seconds. And let me do this so that you can see it at 5. There we go. So it's at 5 seconds. That's the end. Okay. All right. See you in the next one.